Hey there, thanks for tuning into Duck Bricks. I'm Chris, and from big figs to large-scale figures to micro figures to trophy figures, LEGO has been producing a lot of minifigure adjacent designs from over the many years that they've been operating as a company. Starting off with the very first rudimentary Homemaker figures, then making experiments with armless, legless minifigures, and finally developing the minifigure as we know it today, LEGO has been through a lot of iterations and still continues to evolve on the standard template for minifigure designs. From fawn legs to cybernetic attachments, LEGO really does love creating custom pieces for minifigs, and for this video, I figured it might make sense to take a look at all the different LEGO minifigure body types and kind of compare and contrast them over the years. While this is by no means meant to be a fully comprehensive look at every single modification to the minifigure ever made, if we were covering all of the different variations from the different spokes on the tops of their heads to block studs to open studs, we'd be here all day, and honestly, that's not the most interesting video topic. Before this video, I just wanted to bring together a few representative samples of unique LEGO styles of minifigures, and maybe you might see something here that you haven't seen before. And so, without further ado, let's jump into our bit of a history retelling of all of the different types of LEGO minifigure designs from the early days of the LEGO Group to now. Now, over the many years, we have gotten so many different types and styles of LEGO minifigures, and the ones on my wall here really just depict a small fraction of all the different kinds of LEGO minifigure types there really are. And so this video is definitely not going to be a very comprehensive one, and instead, I really just want to focus on some of the most interesting LEGO minifigure and minifigure character body types to me, especially with the wide amount of different styles of characters and different creatures that LEGO has done over the years. It would be impossible to cover everything in one video, but I'll do my best to showcase some representative samples from some of the most important milestones in the development of the LEGO minifig. From the mini dolls to big figs and everything in between, there is so much content to cover, and I am not even going to have a chance to talk about Belleville or Scala or any of the other doll-like LEGO builds, so if you want to see a part 2 of this video where I go even more in-depth into obscure parts of LEGO history, do let me know down in the comments below, because there's always more to talk about when it comes to the LEGO minifigure. And with that, let's jump right into the video. What's really interesting is that even for some of the earliest LEGO minifigures, particularly the LEGO Space minifigures in 1978, some of them did not even have printed torsos and instead relied on stickers decaled onto the torsos themselves. This was even when LEGO was still trying to perfect their printing process, which goes to show that the evolution of the minifigure was a long one in development. The funny story behind this is that LEGO actually had to rush the inclusion of minifigures in sets. Initially, they were worried that competitors would be able to start putting out figures, so after debuting the figure, they hastily included them in sets, even sets that could not be used by minifigures, like a police car that couldn't fit a policeman minifigure and just had him standing alongside of it. Now, most notably in 1989, we got our first customized minifigure elements with the Pirates theme. We had hooks for hands and peg legs, which was really the first time that we departed from regular body parts being used in these standard minifigures. From there, minifigures got more different facial expressions as well, facial hair, eye patches, makeup, and sunglasses, all sorts of unique things, and they started to really just mostly get different variations on facial hair and kind of accessories for the eyes, but even when you get to early 1997, things started to get a little bit more detailed with stuff like the Fright Nights, like the witch having an open mouth and detailed eyes. Now, in between there, we got a lot of unique variations of characters kind of in between this to the standard minifigure. One of the most notable buildable characters that we got all the way back in the early days of LEGO's history were these Homemaker style figures. And these were essentially meant to be large-scale buildable characters for people to be able to create their own doll-like characters and houses. What's super interesting is that when LEGO actually released Homemaker figures, they were developing the minifigures at the same time. So while the first Homemaker sets came out in 1971, by the time they had workable minifigures, standard minifigs were included in Homemaker sets as babies, which was a little bit freaky seeing these characters handling minifigures as basically supposed to be their same scale, and implying that minifigures eventually grow up into these Homemaker style dolls. Now, the Homemaker figures were essentially made out of standard traditional LEGO bricks using just regular brick stacking techniques. However, they had these specialized movable arm pieces, which would later be used in stuff like submarine shooting arms for LEGO Aquazone, and these special toe ball elements, which were toe balls on single studs, which eventually would form the basis of the LEGO Mixel joint system years later. The hair pieces were detachable, but they were a little bit harder to detach. You can kind of pull them outwards right here. No obvious stud connections, and you can actually rotate them backwards or forwards depending on the hairstyle that you want, which was actually a really cool thing. Something that LEGO did later on in stuff like Hero Factory and Bionicle, but essentially you have a headpiece that can be reversed and used for a completely different hair expression right here that gives you a bit of a different look and feel. So for instance, the mother here has the hairpiece oriented this way, which feels a little bit more mature and grown up, whereas the child has the exact same hairpiece but oriented the other way. We also got a number of other characters large scale like this, but that wouldn't be until a little bit later on in LEGO's history. Moving onwards and going back to the minifigure itself, once we actually get these characters to stand up here, I'm just going to get this one to stand up so we can focus on some of the other ones. We started to get more and more unique and diverse body types and skin tones for future LEGO sets, starting off particularly in 2002 to 2003, where we got LEGO basketball minifigures like this one right here, with a very unique innovation for LEGO minifigures. You see, the basketball minifigures had spring legs, which allowed you to actually play the basketball LEGO game, and the hands themselves are oriented to specifically be able to grip the basketball. You cannot rotate their hands, they're basically one solid mold, and most interestingly, these hands actually have a bit of a click joint in them, which allows you to be able to fix the position of the basketball hands at one particular point. It was a very unique innovation for LEGO minifigures, and one that came with a few growing pains, where you can see the facial expression on this character is a little bit uncanny because they were really trying to replicate the look and feel of real-life basketball players with these minifigures, for better or for worse. Also around the same time, we got our first minifigure in a licensed LEGO set with a different skin tone with Lando from Star Wars Episode 5, the infamous Cloud City set. Now this introduced new skin colors to the LEGO portfolio because at the time they were basically just doing licensed minifigures with yellow skin. In fact, the set that Lando came in featured Luke, Leia, and the rest of the cast with just standard yellow skin. And it wouldn't be until much later where LEGO would start to introduce natural skin tones in 2004, with Harry Potter starting to use standard skin tones in April 2004, and LEGO Star Wars using it in June. And eventually by 2005, natural skin tones were used for pretty much all sorts of licensed LEGO products. Moving onwards from those though, we still have a number of other different types of characters to cover. I'm going to start removing the characters that we already have covered so we can continue to go onwards, but taking a step backwards a little bit on this list, I do want to make a note of a very interesting evolution for LEGO minifigures, and that was the advent of the very first molded LEGO minifigure head with Jar Jar Binks for Star Wars Episode 1 in 1999. With Jar Jar, LEGO essentially was forced to create a brand new head sculpt for the alien character because you can't really depict this with a standard LEGO minifigure head, and this really opened the floodgates for all sorts of minifigures eventually to come featuring specialized molded heads. In fact, LEGO dabbled with the idea of making custom minifigure components as early as the early 1980s for LEGO Space, considering a full-on alien for Citron, but eventually decided that it was a bit too ahead of its time and decided not to release it, instead just holding off until 1999 until they eventually had to make a specialized minifigure mold. Since then, we got further innovations in minifigures thanks to licensed themes like Star Wars, where Greedo here featured one of the first instances of printed arms on minifigures, which had a short spurt in 2003 but really only returned to popularity around 2016, when LEGO really refined the arm printing process and was able to do it a lot more frequently across many different themes. Some of the other characters that we actually were able to get as non-LEGO minifigures during this time was Fabuland. Fabuland, in case you don't know, was a special subset of LEGO, which had these very juniorized figures. They also used the same template of these figures for licensed LEGO Mickey Mouse sets, but LEGO Fabuland was basically one of the first LEGO theme to feature products as storybooks, playing cards, children's clothing, and even an animated TV series. Some could even consider this to be the precursor to all of the things that we know today, like Ninjago and Monkey Kid and Bionicle, which have their own individual storylines, which really was very unique at the time, because back then LEGO wasn't really creating individual stories, they were basically just having kids make up the stories on their own. The Fabuland figures introduced these very unique minifigure components, which are adjacent to LEGO minifigures with the way the hands are built, with particularly the way the arms are attached, and the legs obviously articulate the same way that LEGO minifigure legs can articulate, but with completely different proportions and a ball joint used for the head, which the heads themselves were especially sculpted and painted with these very cute animalistic details. Fabuland really set the stage for unique styles of LEGO characters in different scales moving forwards, and it's really interesting taking an example Fabuland minifigure and comparing it against what was to come. And speaking of what was to come, we were about to get a whole lot of diversity in LEGO minifigure body ranges, starting off especially with the Battle Droid in 1999, which introduced a more robotic look and feel for a LEGO character which would last even to this day, with the only change to the Battle Droid being making a straight arm for firing weapons, but pretty much what you see is what we still get to this day, which really goes to show how perfectly LEGO was able to make this system. Following 1999, a few years later in 2001, LEGO introduced the Life on Mars Martians, showing that they were able and willing to create new aliens based on the Battle Droid template, and even introduce compatible new molds using the same exact pieces made for Battle Droids, but putting a unique LEGO spin on it, like this Life on Mars Martian right here from 2001, and this really did open the door to more unique robotic buildable characters, like the Exoforce drone, which we got in 2006 for LEGO Exoforce, their anime-inspired line, which used some of the same building aesthetics as the Battle Droids themselves, but created an entirely new set of molds for the evil robots from the Exoforce theme, which you can see had articulatable hands. You can actually rotate the hands themselves to use them in all sorts of different configurations, and came in a variety of different colors, from copper to silver to even dual molded colors, with dual molded black and gold for the Mecha one, the main villain, as well as silver and transparent colors as well. Moving onwards from that, we have a number of other different types of characters that were beginning to pop up around that time, and speaking of Harry Potter also introduced a brand new scale of character with Hagrid here, whose components would also go on to be used in Jack Stone minifigures from around the same time. Hagrid, being larger than the regular minifigure, used very unique body parts, a very strange looking LEGO head, and a fully rubberized beard. Some of the components were used in Hagrid minifigures, even going far past Jack Stone's discontinuation, which is where these arm elements basically were used in as well, using these special fingers molded into the hands themselves, and overall represented yet another departure from the standard minifigure shape and form. Here's what the modern Hagrid minifigure looks like from the ongoing LEGO Harry Potter series, and in many ways it is very different, but in also many ways it is very similar to what we eventually got. A large sculpted body for Hagrid himself. This time, thankfully, the arms are mounted on Technic pegs, which I think is a much smarter choice, making them more ubiquitous and also allowing you to attach standard minifigure hands to them, and you even have removable legs, with short legs being used for Hagrid on the bottom of the cloak here. Overall, I really do think it's cool to showcase how much LEGO has changed, but also how little LEGO has changed, and how much they've kept the standard DNA for the same character depicted in two different styles very much the same. Moving onwards from that, speaking of large-scale LEGO characters, LEGO Adventurers Orient Expedition in 2003 introduced us to large-scale buildable characters like Tigura here. From set Tigura's Roar, they also made a Yeti one and Jun-Chi for the style of characters, as depicted in this particular unique look and feel here. Now, if you were to open it up, which obviously kind of exploded all over the place, but you can see that this is utilizing very simple pieces. One large piece used for the legs, another piece used for the arms, which you can see here. You've got a set of different LEGO Technic pieces that attach via Technic pins for the arms themselves, and then just a full-on cover that goes over the figure for the actual printed look and feel of the creature itself. These were of course meant to depict fantastical creatures across Asian lore, but I think it was really interesting how they were really able to create a fully unique LEGO sculpt utilizing just a few standard LEGO pieces. Moving onwards from that, we were continuing to get more and more unique LEGO minifigures, including some specialized chrome minifigures. As part of a promotion for LEGO Star Wars' anniversary, we got these chrome C-3PO minifigures, which are among the rarest LEGO minifigures ever made. It is really specialized the way that these minifigures were produced. We would eventually get even more chrome figures in keychains and in promotional stuff like the TC-14 polybag in 2012, but nowadays LEGO doesn't really do chrome minifigures, or chrome pieces for that matter, anymore, because the paint just scuffs off way too easily, and LEGO wants their products to last, so unless you keep very careful care of the chrome minifigures, their paint will eventually scuff off, which is why LEGO doesn't do them anymore, but it was certainly an interesting experiment. 2012 brought us a lot of unique LEGO minifigure innovations, starting off with the Big Fig. And now Big Figs are pretty ubiquitous across a lot of themes, but obviously you needed to make a Big Fig for the Hulk, and they absolutely necessitated a brand new piece being made for this character. While some of the first Big Figs actually were 2008's fantasy era trolls, Big Figs did not really start commonly popping up in LEGO sets until we got Hulk in 2012, and all of his subsequent variations. Now, the Hulk, as you can see, has pretty much just built out of Technic pieces here. You've got Technic pins attaching the arms and legs, and for the longest time, Big Figs essentially kept the exact same mold for the Hulk himself, with little to no changes being used for the characters, other than an innovation just a couple of years ago to actually allow the heads to be removable and rotatable on a standard LEGO minifig pin. Sure, we did get some Big Figs like the ones for Legends of Chima, which utilized unique minifigure headpieces and added them onto Big Fig torsos, but for the most part, Big Figs stayed the same since 2012, with some of the most unique ones coming in the LEGO Batman movie for Killer Croc here. This one took the standard template of a LEGO crocodile piece, but essentially made it possible for you to be able to transplant it onto a Big Fig body and reuse the movable hands with fingers from the Rancor from LEGO Star Wars in 2012, which makes this easily my favorite LEGO Big Fig ever, just because of how articulatable and fun this is to play around with. It's just a gigantic LEGO crocodile. When talking about LEGO minifigure body types, I would be remiss not to mention LEGO Friends and the Mini Doll, and of course all the subsequent characters that came from that theme we're in, like LEGO Elves and all sorts of other Mini Doll styled themes. LEGO actually redefined the overall look and feel of the figures specifically for their girl-oriented LEGO themes, because after doing a ton of market research on young girls, they realized that at least a good percentage of them prefer to see themselves reflected in LEGO format in a shape that was a little bit more realistic, not the very blocky minifigure, and thus the Mini Doll was born in 2012. Which obviously is popular enough that LEGO continues to use the template to this day, making this basically a full-on alternative to the minifigure itself with very completely unique proportions and detailing. Moving onwards from that, there were a couple of notable improvements or unique molds made for minifigures in 2012 as well, such as the Serpentine tail for LEGO Ninjago when they introduced the multiple different tribes of Serpentine, like Fangtum here, which was one of the leaders of the Serpentine tribes for the Fangpire. Absolutely a very unique dual molded element being introduced for the actual movable rubber tail, transitioning upwards to a more standard plastic attachment point for the Frontier, which again represented that LEGO was willing to give us unique LEGO minifigure molds in original LEGO themes, and that really all came to a head with Nauticon in 2016, which combined the last few years of Ninjago innovation on figures. A four-armed piece introduced in 2013 for the Stone Warriors, a Ghost Tail piece dual molded introduced in 2015, the year prior, for the Ghost Warriors, and even a hairpiece introduced for LEGO Nexo Knights in 2015 for one of the hairpieces of the main character's Macy. Nauticon was a really cool example of just how ornate and complex LEGO minifigures based on unique properties could get, and that's why I wanted to showcase him on this list. Moving onwards from there, another major innovation for minifigures came in 2015 with Legends of Chima, where we got characters like Laval, one of the most interesting head sculpts being made for the animalistic characters of Chima, which introduced much more intricate printing than we were used for standard minifigures. With unique armor, capes, weapons, this was a turning point in LEGO minifigure design, making the graphic design for characters better than ever before. 2010 also made a very unique innovation for LEGO minifigures, the benefits of which we are still seeing today with the introduction of LEGO Toy Story, where Woody here featured long LEGO legs and long arms, which was a first for a minifigure, taking the standard minifigure template but just making it a little bit different in terms of the proportions. Now initially we thought that these were essentially just used for Woody and nothing else, but surprisingly just last year for LEGO Avatar we got the return of these long legs and long arms, where they essentially remolded the piece but made it very similar to the original long legs for Avatar, which has since been used for Eggman and LEGO Sonic, showing that these are no longer the Woody legs, they're now the long legs, which is very, very notable for a LEGO minifigure. Of course, we got all sorts of unique LEGO characters in those years as well, like the Rock Monsters for 2009, again experimenting with different types of small characters that could be made in the LEGO system, and we even would continue to get innovations in collectible minifigure series, like this queen here from 2016 utilizing a specialized skirt element, made specifically for minifigures using skirts, and one piece that was actually used just as early as this year for some of the recent collectible minifig series. Speaking of collectible minifigures, a very notable minifigure came in the form of Mr. Gold here, which is definitely one of the rarest LEGO minifigs ever, a fully chrome gold chase minifigure, which doesn't really have much more to do with LEGO minifigure body types and the evolution of the minifigure, but still marks a very important milestone in LEGO minifig history. In terms of collectible minifigures, we also got the introduction of specialized new body parts, from mermaid components to centaurs here, some of which are appearing in even more different license sets today, like Harry Potter. And Harry Potter itself did introduce a ton of new minifig components as well, one of the most notable being the usage of MidLegs. For LEGO Harry Potter's return in 2018, we got MidLegs, which are not quite short legs, but they're not quite long legs as well. They are MidLegs, which can still move and articulate, but depicts minifigures as teenagers, which is a really unique look and feel for minifigures themselves. That same lineup also introduced a more realistic skirt element. Previously, LEGO minifigures were using slope pieces as skirts, which meant that they were just taller than the standard LEGO minifigure, but this made an entirely new skirt element, which allowed minifigures to be the same height as other standard characters, but wearing a skirt instead. Lastly, there are just a couple of other unique LEGO minifig body types I wanted to cover. 2016's LEGO Nexo Knights introduced LEGO Axel, which basically took the standard lower part of a LEGO minifigure, but introduced a specialized new dual molded component attached onto the standard torso, and arms mounted via Technic pins, which was definitely a very unique innovation, somewhat similar to LEGO Hagrid, but really trying to keep this well within the LEGO system, which was a very unique body type that I kind of wish LEGO did more with. And finally, I think it makes sense to end this video with one of my favorite LEGO minifigure body types, which is the supersized minifigure. They've only done a few of these. They made one for the Giant in Harry Potter, they made one as an employee-exclusive gift for a large-scale Santa, and they made one for Ares in LEGO DC. But of course, the template originated from Ant-Man, aka Giant Man, in Captain America Civil War in 2016, where essentially LEGO took the standard template for a minifigure and just made it supersized, pun intended. Of course, we even got a large-scale buildable LEGO Ninjago Stone Armor Warrior, which really shows that LEGO was even willing to do this for their own original themes. And this one is one of my favorites because it actually has 4 arms. But pretty much that is all when it comes to the different LEGO minifigure body types. Obviously, I did not have time to mention all of them. We would be here all day if I wanted to bring every single time LEGO deviated from the standard LEGO minifigure, but hopefully this was just an interesting example and look into how much LEGO minifigures have changed over the years, and I certainly had a fun time doing the research for this video and just kind of going around my collection and finding unique LEGO minifigures with different body styles and really showcasing them for this video. Of course, do let me know in the comments which one of these are your favorites. I'm so curious what you think of the evolution of the minifigure, and is there anything that you feel LEGO is missing? Personally, I think it would be really cool if LEGO eventually came up with a way to do child legs that were movable. No idea how they would do it, but that would be really cool to do. And also, I just am so excited to see what LEGO will do in the future when it comes to more unique minifigure body types. Obviously, they have been innovating and building upon this very simple vanilla concept of just the regular minifigure for years now, and I personally am so curious to see what will come in the future for LEGO minifig body types. And with that, we have summed up this video. Thank you so much for watching, and again, let me know in the comments what you think, and maybe you might be able to learn something as well. If you saw a minifigure on here that you have never seen before, do let me know in the comments, because I really love doing that, introducing people to unique aspects of LEGO history, and hopefully you found this video helpful. Okay, with that, we have summed up our look at the evolution of LEGO minifigure types throughout all of the years. I'm so curious to see what LEGO will do to continue to reimagine the minifigure in 2024 and beyond. They have already done so much in terms of making minifigures more accessible, from prosthetics to wheelchairs, to making minifigures more fantastical, fawn legs and creature arms, to creating alien heads, and even different body shapes like Axel from Nexo Knights or Big Figs. LEGO has been reimagining the standard character figure over and over and over again, and I think it's really cool how they continue to evolve on the one original base template of the minifigure. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. Thank you all so much for your viewership, and I hope you enjoyed. Be sure to like and subscribe for even more LEGO news, reviews, discussion, and analyses coming your way very soon. And bye for now.